everyone down there. They're all going to go vote this coming week. Big important US election. Over the past week or so, I conducted a survey of about 2,000 people, and the resounding result is that people are very, very concerned about the outcome of this election, number one, and more specifically, as far as this vlog is concerned, they're very concerned about the reaction in the stock market. They're not necessarily thinking it's going to be something where the stock market falls apart, but they have no idea, and they're right to do so. So what I thought is I'd make a quick vlog. I have four specific trade ideas that I'm looking to potentially do once the election results are out come next week, Wednesday or Thursday. So maybe give the market a little bit of time to settle in first. So let me show you guys a couple charts, four specific trade ideas that I'm looking at that I think you'll find quite helpful. Okay, so trade idea number one here is the S&P 500. The S&P 500 here, as of this recording right now, has of course sold off a little bit over the past days, arguably the past couple of months already, depending on how you want to look at that. But for the most part, that the S&P is coming back into an area that could be of interest for the market, somewhere potentially between as low as the June low, so about 2,000 to about 2050. Now again, obviously we don't want to buy the S&P 500 blindly, but it is something worth looking at, because historically speaking, even if we were to say get a further weakness after the election down here, there tends to be this sort of year-end rally, which is not so much necessarily based on fundamentals, but based on the fact that fund managers that are underperforming the markets tend to have to force buy certain stocks, certain sectors, and think that have been working. So I think the odds of buying the S&P 500 on a further dip down after the election is still pretty good for a year-end move. So that would be trade idea number one. Trade idea number two is in the pharmaceutical index, or we could even look at the healthcare sector of the S&P 500. In this case here, we are looking at the DRG ticker symbol pharmaceutical index, and basically this thing has now dropped about let's call it 16% since those reaction highs in late July, early August of this year, breaking below the previous lows for the year in February. A lot of this is due to elections uncertainty, and I do think ultimately this will provide a pretty good spot to buy this kind of thing, the weakness into potentially year end. If you peel back this chart just a little bit more here, you can see that the this index is actually coming into a really important spot through the long-term lens. And when I say long terms, I mean looking back to 2009, and it's actually right back at the major 2009 support line. Looks something like this. So this is a pretty good spot. Also from a momentum perspective, we're starting to see positive divergence, i.e. price going lower, momentum starting to weaken on the downside. So DRG, or healthcare sector XLV ETF, is trade idea number two for a potential post-election trade. Trade idea number three here following the election, to me, continues to be something that I'm looking at in gold. And this is actually the monthly chart, but what I want to focus on here is to give you this idea that I do think that the uptrend that we started in, let's call it early 2016 or maybe late 2015, depending on how you want to draw it. I think that uptrend, largely speaking, does remain intact, even though we did actually break it a little bit. But I do think that this continues to work. In fact, we are seeing more and more signs that potentially may have seen a washout here in gold just as of late. And I do think ultimately this may be something that will continue to rally to the upside as the sort of expectations of a further rate hike will subside, or even maybe once we get a rate hike, so into year end and into 2017, I do think gold here potentially on the long side after the election should start to look better once again as a trade. And trade idea number four following the elections is very straightforward, looking at shares of Facebook. And you can see shares of Facebook, as much as they have now taken a bit of a dive after the earnings, the stock has very simply gotten overbought once again, but this continues to be a growth story that is both believable and one that people basically have to chase higher, considering the lack of many other opportunities out there from a growth perspective. So Facebook continues to look very nicely. Any overshooting move tends to lead to a mean reversion lower. We've seen that several times this year, and once again here towards the upper end of the range, we're now back to the lower end of the range.
somewhere near that 200-day simple moving average, maybe around 118 bucks, maybe as low as the 112 or so area. Anywhere in here, if we get any sort of meaningful bullish reversal, I think Facebook for a trade after the elections into year end and likely in 2017, also a trade idea that makes sense. So there you go, 4 trade ideas for following the election. Hope this makes sense, guys. Any questions, you can please just leave a comment down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video, and I will see you in the next video.